Greetings, YouTube. Sometimes I'll buy films blind. Never heard of them, nothing. See the cover, read the blurb. I'm like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And sometimes I get lucky. This time, I did not. I saw this, and I saw the cover, and it's got some cool animated stuff, and then I read that it had Lucy Lawless and Patton Oswalt doing voice work. And I happen to like both of these people. I respect both of these people. I thought Patton Oswalt was absolutely marvelous in the Agents of Shield. He was just a joy. In addition, this has a certified fresh from Rotten Tomatoes, which has impacted my opinion of them. And there are some blurbs on this particular case. It says, one of the sickest, coolest, most mind-bending animated films we've seen. Um, Intoxicating, riveting, visceral, striking, wall-to-wall medieval ultra-violence, which makes me think that none of these people watched this movie. This was released by Shudder, which is traditionally a source of horror movies, and I realize that sometimes horror movies have a fairly low bar. Um, it's not this low. I cannot figure out how this made it past their criteria to get distributed even by Shudder. But all right, so the first thing you notice right off the bat when the film starts, two things actually. The first is that the first character you see in the film is a naked woman who will remain naked for every single scene she is in for the entirety of the film. 100% naked. Um, well, she has a skull on her head, so I guess maybe technically she's not completely naked. But in fact, there are more naked people, completely naked people, in this film, this animated film, than I've ever seen in a film that wasn't specifically made as a pornography. And none of it's done for titillation purposes. In fact, there's no sex in this whatsoever. There's one scene, very, very brief, and it's the only scene that has got like the old Vaseline over the lens kind of dreamy sequence of a woman kind of writhing on a bed all by herself. There's nothing titillating about it in the least, really. She looks like she may be having some kind of sort of drug-induced seizure. But yeah, lots of naked people, no sexual titillation of any variety. The next thing I noticed about it, after the fact that it was a naked woman, realistically drawn in the sense that it proportions like a real human. It's not like airbrushed anime characters that look bizarrely, strangely proportioned. No, this person looks like a real human being. Is that it appears to have been rotoscoped. Now, I don't know who out there knows what rotoscoping means, but it's taking an actual piece of film and then you trace it to create animation. The most famous example that I can think of off the top of my head would be the Ralph Bakshi Hobbit, which is not good, but did give us the line, where there's a whip, there's a way. It's a song, actually. Yeah, check it out. Um, and I don't know if they actually rotoscoped it, or was it just done in the style of rotoscoping. Now, this film was written and directed by the same people. It had a maximum of 4 animators, and that wasn't even at all time, but they never had more than 4 animators. And it took them 7 years to make this particular piece of dreck. Um, I apologize if I sound harsh, but this is a bad movie. I paid money for it, so I'm going to give my opinion. So it's not a particularly original story. We have mysterious forces. There's a power source, and like people are vying for the power source, trying to figure out who should control the power source, and those that want to keep it safe or use it for like good reasons, and those that want to have it for themselves and become megalomaniacal, narcissistic god kings, literally god kings, want to have it for themselves, and what happens therein over the course of the story. The characters have these traditionally weird fantasy names. There is one group in here which is supposed to like be they're archivists. But they're archivists that archive information but don't want to share it. they preserve the knowledge of man, and there are only humans in this, preserve the knowledge of man. But to what end, I don't know. Now, there are people within their organization that would like to disseminate this information because they think it's important. And I think there's kind of an implication that this could be potentially post-apocalyptic, because they do refer to the night of the thousand suns. So I think that might be looking at a sly reference to like a nuclear war, and maybe they're preserving the knowledge to keep it from disappearing. But then why not disseminate it? Because if you disseminate it, if you become the source of knowledge and you can help the overall base of quality of living, that puts you in a better position, and everybody is happier and healthier and more likely to defend you and keep you around because you're useful to them, um, as opposed to what happens, which is by hoarding the knowledge and somehow being able to have access to food, whereas the people outside who are not knowledgeable don't have access to food and have decided we'll just kill the librarians and eat well tonight, even if that means they starve in the long run anyway. They ever explain how the librarians get food and that the people in the community next to the library do not have food? That isn't explained. Um, and it's done in a series of vignettes. So you have a little section of story, then there's a flashback scene, and then we hop back to the narrator, and there's another flashback scene, we hop back to the narrator, and as this flashback scenes happen, you're essentially moving further and further and further to time. Well, there is one section that goes like boom, 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 really far back, boom, boom, and then you can continue forward. But essentially, you're moving through the course of time up to the point where the film finally has its climax. Now, there is violence in this, and it is somewhat visceral, but it's boring. There is no dynamism to this action. There's no sense of motion or combat. It's it has all the grace of watching somebody swing a sledgehammer underwater. It's just like with these battle axes. Everybody has these battle axes with like 6-foot shafts with heads the size of coal shovels, and the jabs are like the thickness of my finger. I mean, it's just, yeah, I'm a weapons geek. It bugs me when things look completely unrealistic. And I used to draw really unrealistic weapons at times, and I'm telling you, it bugged me. Um, so yeah, it's not a good film. I do not recommend it. Save your money. There are some features on here. Let's see, we got here special features: the making of Spine of Night, and uh, Exordium and Mongrel short films. Well, one of the characters is named Mongrel, so maybe that's about him. I don't know who Exordium is, but I'm not going to watch either of those. And in fact, I'm going to get rid of this. I'm not keeping this. I will donate it. Someone else can have it, um, because it just isn't good. Oh yeah, but the bird people are kind of cool. They're not actual bird people, but they're just people that use like these absurdly small gliders kind of thing, but they dress up as birds and they have bird masks, and you never actually see their faces without the bird masks. But that was kind of cool. It was at least mildly interesting. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of magic in there. Again, Zen source of power. It happens to be flowers, but source of power. Um, it isn't interesting. Everything's slow and plotting. The writing is plotting. The line delivery is plotting. The the vignettes are dull. Everything is like da 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 da, and it's like, yep, I know where this is going. Yes. Can we get there? It's like being stuck behind someone doing 20 in a 30-mile-an-hour zone. Yes, technically they're allowed to do that, but they're annoying the crap out of you in the process now, aren't they? So yeah, don't watch this. It will in fact annoy the crap out of you in the process.